Yes. Good afternoon, students. We are studying about the Khanka or the Sufi shrines or the Sufi Dargah or Khanka. Understand about that we are the studying. So in course of that study, we have seen the different sects, different branches of the Sufism, and one of the Sufism was itself a very revolutionary or a different from the ulema class and from a traditional Islam. It was quite different, and as well as the students, we shall see that here. Going to see, yeah, and have seen that particularly in our country, right from the 14th century, we have seen that now the Chishti Silsila had made the very dominant position in our country and had its influence over the common man, or irrespective of the caste, creed, or the highness or lowness. Understand? All were welcomed in the Sufi order, whether the Hindus and Muslims. They did not make any discrimination or any kind of the differences. All were welcomed openly under the Chishti, and even then they see that now the even large scale, large number of the Hindus now they make their visit to the dargahs and to the Chishti shrines or the Chishti Khanka. Understand? Large number of the Hindus go for the blessings and for the barakat and the blessings. Understand? And this is the what the reason, the certain factors we see that Chishti silsila was is very close to the our Hindus rituals. Many of the Hindu rituals they have now adopted, and that is why they seems to be the very having the conformity with the Hinduism. So this make the easy way to the grasp and the adopted large number of the Hindus now embrace the Islam or embrace the Sufism and got into that order. Understand? Or still large number of them, those who are not believing and following, understand, but they believe in the miracles of the Sufi sects and visit to their shrine or visit to their dargahs. Understand? So now we see that one thing is that, and I have already mentioned students, now the sultans were always surrounded by the ulemas. Now ulemas were the now preserver of the Shara and Sharia, and always wanted to the implementation and always tried to influence the sultans. Ulema class always tried, but I have already mentioned that the ulema class, understand, the sultans now took the decisions, and sultans were well aware of the strange surroundings of the India or the environment of India, and they wanted to go through the environment of the India and not wanted to clash with the majority of the Hindus and their norms and their traditions. They were adapted and they allowed everything despite having the power in their hands. Now they let the things as usual at the Hindus we are adopting the and the Hindus we are doing. Understand? So now, but the ulama always exhorted upon the sultans to implement the Shara and Sharia in every respect. Understand? but the sultans were very clever. And on the other hand, the Sufi saints, Sufis, now the sultans and these sultans were also associated with the Sufis. Only they were not under the grip of the ulamas. Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was very intellectual king, one of the intellectual king of the Tughlaq dynasty. Now he had first sultan. He was the first sultan to visit the Sufis, and he now preferred the ideas of the Sufism. And Muhammad bin Tughlaq, or who is very prominent, we know very well, for the he transport the capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, from Daulatabad to Delhi. Now he increased the taxation system in the Doaba area, and moreover he introduced the new coins, experimented new coins, and he was the very sultan of the advanced thinking. So that is why he was called as a mad sultan in the history of the India. Understand? He is called as the mad sultan in the history of India. Understand? And moreover, he was the first sultan to get visit in the darbar, or in the visit the shrine, and the first sultan who now got to the house, the tomb who constructed was, and he funded, was the just a sultan of Malwa named the Ghiyasuddin Khalji. Understand? Ghiyasuddin Khalji, understand, he now got constructed the shrine, understand, or he tomb, the house, to house the tomb, and for that he funded for that. One thing is that since the shrine located, because this shrine was located at the root of the Delhi and the Gujarat, understand, and it was a very brisk trade route. It was a fast trade route. So that is why he now got constructed for the viewpoint of that importance of the trade, or this shrine attracted a lot of travelers, understand, were attracted, because this was situated on the busy road, on the trade routes. That's why it was natural that a large number of the masses assembled there for the expressing their reverence to the dargah, reverence to their saints. Understand? Moreover, by 17th century, shrines had become the very popular, and by that, or in fact, a spirited singing of the pilgrims bound for Ajmer, and moreover, the Ajmer became the more important, that inspired the Akbar visit the tomb. Akbar now, time to time, always visit the Ajmer. Understand? Ajmer Sharif, he now visit the tomb, or went there for 14 times. It is now written, or the given the in the composition of the Akbarnama or the Ain Akbari. This description has been written down, and what the contribution, what the donation he made there, it has also been recorded in the Ain Akbari. Understand? So now here we can see that he visited or inspired the Akbar to visit. He went there 14 times, sometimes 2 or 3 times in a year. Particularly, Akbar had the great reverence for the saints. Or 1580s, he did not visit, and we know that 1882, Akbar had himself, understand, Akbar had himself launched a new religion, understand, a new religion, that is called known as the Deen-e-Ilahi. Akbar now, or Deen-e-Ilahi, first of all in 1575, he established the Ibadat Khana. Understand? Or 1579, Akbar now declared the doctrine of infallibility. The doctrine of infallibility. He declared that is called the Mazharnama. Or according to this declaration of the Mazharnama, Akbar now took all the rights in his hand. Understand? All rights he took in his hands. Religious right, decisions of the regarding the religious right. He taken over. Whatever the any disputes on the issues, religious issues, that will be the resolved by the king. Understand? Not resolved by the any Qazi or any ulema class. No, he took all the rights himself. And finally, in 1582, Akbar now launched a new religion, Din-e-Ilahi. Although Akbar was Din-e-Ilahi, what was that? Now, before that, in the Ibadat Khana, Akbar called upon the many of the religious saints, the Christian saints, the Jain saints, the Buddhist saints, the Jewish saints, understand, or the Hindus saints, prominent Hindus, and the Muslim saints. And the Akbar now was the fond of listening these saints, even the Christian missionaries. Now for many days they stayed, and they have congregations with the Akbar. And now Christian missionaries declared, they became the confident of that. What the confident that Akbar is going to join the Christianity. Akbar is going to be the baptized and converted into the Christianity. Akbar was so much thoughtful about their so much thoughtful in listening of their speech or their deliverance. Second, now the all one by one, Akbar now talked and discussed on the religious matter. Akbar discussed one by one, all religious people were now called upon. Even and lastly, Muslims, Islam, head of the Islams were always invited. And these the believers of the Islamic people started fighting amongst them. They are now just veins of their neck swelled, and they started crying. Akbar became very much angry of their tendency and their shouting. Akbar became very angry and driven out from the Ibadat Khana. Ultimately, he ordered and he said, "Leave immediately." And finally, the emperor, day and nights, used to whole nights, he was dipped into the thinking about the religious matters. And ultimately, the Akbar devised a new religion that is called as the Din-e-Ilahi. Understand? Although Akbar did not lay the emphasis and compel anyone to adopt this. No. Only more than the 40 peoples were only adopted the Akbar's Din-e-Ilahi in the court. Only. Understand? 40%. He did not emphasize. Although Akbar was sharply criticized by the Vincent Smith, the historians. He strongly criticized him. Akbar wanted to be both the Caesar and Pope. Akbar wanted to be both Caesar and the Pope. Now he was sharply criticized. So the Akbar now made the visit to the shrines of the Sheikh. Understand? Or now Sheikh and Ajmer many times. Why the question is that why did Akbar now make his visit to the shrine of Ajmer? Now, first thing is that to seek the blessings for a new conquest. We know that Akbar was very fond of and he wanted to make the conquest over the entire India. Understand? So he wanted, he used to go there to seek the blessings from the saint. Understand? Second thing is that Akbar, now second thing, Akbar fulfillment of the vows, whatever the vows Akbar had taken, he wanted the blessings to now blessings from the saint to accomplish his voyages or his whatever his now he had made and planned and projects in his mind, and has taken the swear to complete this. Third things were the very important. That was the Akbar and the birth of the sons. Akbar wanted the birth of the sons. Understand? It is said that for a long time Akbar had no son. Akbar was heirless. So ultimately, because of the visit of the Sheikh, understand, Akbar got blessings, and it is said that now the Jahangir after that born. Understand? Or that is why the Jahangir early name the Salim, you know very well. His name was Salim. Understand? He born, and then after Akbar sometimes used to him as a Sekhu Baba, called him as a Sekhu Baba, because he was the result of the blessings of the Sikh. Understand? That's why he called him. Once in the incidents in 1605, because of the conspiracy. Understand? Now he set upon the killings of the Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl, you know very well, he was one of the intellectual chronicles or the historians of the Akbar court, who has now composed the Akbarnama and Aine Akbari. He was stabbed to death, and it was the conspiracy hatched by the Jahangir, and it was the last, and Akbar had become the very old. Understand? 1604, this is the incidents, and after 1 year Akbar died in the 1605. Understand? So now what happened? In this incidents, what happened? One of the Rajputs, he was set upon to kill the Abul Fazl by the Jahangir, and the Jahangir now that Abul Fazl was killed, and then after Akbar, this incident agonized, penetrated. Understand? Agonized and he became the inflicted of these incidents, afflicted with these incidents. He died after the 1 year. But at the time of the death of the Abul Fazl killings, he now addressed him, Sekhu Baba, what did you? Understand? Entire Hindustan and this emperor was for you. Why did you? Understand? Do this and commit this. God commit this. Akbar now was agonized, and ultimately he died of the disease, dysentery. Akbar died of the dysentery. Understand? And Alauddin Khilji, he died of the disease, the dropsy disease. Understand? Alauddin Khilji, you have studied in the Sultanate period, a dropsy disease. Because of died of the dropsy, Akbar died of the dysentery. Okay. So now let's see. The Akbar now visited, and Akbar made the many of the gifts and the generous gifts. Each of these visits was celebrated to the generous gift. Now the Akbar, he was the emperor of India. Naturally, he conferred on the gifts which were recorded in the imperial documents. And in 1568, there is a mention he offered a huge bag, cauldron, understand, a day to facilitate cooking for the pilgrims there. Understand? A big pot, we can say. Understand? It was the given away to the as a charity, and moreover he also had a mosque constructed within the compound of the dargah. A mosque he had got constructed, Akbar. Understand? Within the dargah. So the Akbar was very fond of that visiting these places, and he had a strong belief in the a strong belief say in Sikhs and their blessings. Understand? Or one thing is that also part of the ziyarat is a use of music during that ziyarat. Understand? Or the pilgrims used to come and make the visit every day. Understand? Or where the music ziyarat, the music and dance was the part of the ziyarat. Understand? And particularly including mystical chants, chanting mystical chants performed, especially trained musician. Those who were the trained musician, they used to now play the music, and the dances happened there, and especially musicians or the kawals. Kawal, you know very well. Kawals, these musicians, understand, they played and sang to evoke, understand, to create. Why this song was organized, singing and dance were to create and to evoke the divine ecstasy, divine ecstasy, परमानंद जिसको कहते हैं, that is the परमानंद, a divine feeling. Understand? To create this kawal. Okay, kawal was sung there by the trained musician and the dancer. Okay, to create a state of the permanent. And now the Sufis remember God either by reciting. Sufi remember, we in our cultures also, the some remembers by counting the beats, and Ram 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 Ram, Hare Krishna, like that. Understand? Similarly, the Sufis also recited the names of the God either by reciting the dhikr, divine names, dhikr. That is called as we call Ram 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 Ram. That wise they called whatever their God's names. Understand? We know. Understand? So they do the dhikr, recite, and evoking His presence, and through that they recall a feeling by the dhikr. By that dhikr, they felt the closeness, feelings, a close feeling of the His presence, Allah presence. By that they feel through the sama, His presence through the sama also. Literary audition. Understand? Through that they feel through the sama, they feel the nearness and feeling of His presence, Allah presence. This is the Sufis, or the performance of mystical music, and these are that is why the performance of the mystical music, they feel a different ananda and ecstasy under this surrounding or environment of the music and the mystics recitations or the mystic music. Sama was integral to the Chishti, and Sama was one of the part and rituals of the Chishti, and exemplified interaction with the indigenous devotional tradition. And this was the exemplified indigenous devotional. It means that the Indian devotionals and our devotionals song and the bhajan, we can say the bhajan, that this was the very close to the bhajan, like that. Generally in Islam there is no music, you know that, and there is no song, no music, anything. But the Sufi saints, particularly the Chishti, they are very close to the Hinduism, very close to the bhakti rituals and the bhajan, like that bhajan. Why? They create the ecstasy, a permanent, a condition of the permanent becoming the very close to the Allah. Understand? This is the theory of the Sufi or the saints now adopts. Understand? So under this we see that now the in the Islamic culture we have seen or the in Sufism was quite different. It was the very close to the Bhakti movements. That's why this became the very close to the Hinduism. Understand? So as students, we have seen that these are the performances done under the Sufism. One thing is that the here language and the communication. This is the language and the communication. What the language they used it was not just a sama that the now Chisti adopted the local language also. We know very well every religion which every beliefs of the religion that became the famous amongst the common man and the masses because of what? Because of the local languages. Because the language now is the best communicating and the touching to the hearts. Local language touches the hearts and makes the things more easily. Okay, more easily the things are understood by that, and the Chisti adopted the local language, or particularly in Delhi, Hindi, the language of the people in the Delhi around, the Hindi was spoken, and this language was adopted by the Sufi saints and around the Delhi, Hindi. Remember, and the other Sufi such as the Baba Farid composed verses in the local language. Baba Farid, whatever, which were incorporated in the Guru Granth Sahib. Baba Farid composed the verses in the local language, or now that has been incorporated or included in the Guru Granth Sahib, because it was in the his Baba Farid compositions was in the local languages, and 8 others composed now the long poems Masnavis. The very long poems are called the Masnavis to express the ideas of divine love using human love. Now they are the very close to the saints. So they now emphasize on the human love as a allegory, and for example the Prem Akhyan love story. Now they try to represent the human loves as the state. Love is what? For the Sufis, the state where the love is the state between the two, as the two individuals, and that creates the state of the ecstasy, state of the that creates the state of the state of the to be the very close and the near to the God, near to the Allah. So now the Prem Akhyan love story, Padmavat, also written by the Malik Muhammad Jaisi. Although Malik Muhammad Jaisi was contemporary of Sirsa Suri, understand, Jaisi, and this incident happened very long before the two or I suppose that two or two centuries before the incidents happened. Understand? But the Jaisi recomposed this, evolved around the romance of the Padmini or Ratan Singh. Raja Ratan Singh and Padmini, you have know the king of the Chittor. Their trials, okay, later on we shall discuss about that. Time is about the upper students, and you will go very well understand.